Okay, so I want to share with you an argument that I got into recently with a radical feminist Facebook friend of mine, who happens to be a lawyer. I've decided to protect her identity by only using first names. All of us in this exchange had common first names. And also, I don't think that her actual identity is relevant. I'm sharing this story because I know that there are some feminists who are open-minded and can be persuaded, and there are some who are seemingly impossible to get through to. You never really know until you try, though. And I just thought you guys would find this interesting. So, the original article was in Vice magazine, and it was a very pro-feminist, radical feminist lament about prominent female journalists in Canada, and how these female journalists promote misogyny by opposing feminism and not being feminist enough. This article singled out Barbara Kay and Christy Blatchford in particular as being a problem that must be solved somehow. My friend Cheryl posted the article on her feed and commented on it saying, "Good article." So I read the article and then I posted a comment on it. My comment was in the form of a series of questions. So here's what I said. Which is the worst kind of misogyny? The misogyny of coddling women just because they're women? The misogyny of exposing women to a small fraction of the danger, the pain, and the injury that men are exposed to? The misogyny of pandering to the delusions of the most paranoid women and supporting a tiny victim cult that's allergic to reality and honest dialogue, while falsely claiming to support the interests of women? The misogyny of attacking two female journalists because they are both prominent and female? The misogyny of infantilizing women? The misogyny of abusing and diluting the word misogyny itself? To which she responded, "This is a nonsensical rant and doesn't include a single fact. I actually don't even know what this is supposed to be saying." The lady doth protest too much. To which I replied, "You just referred to a series of questions. Questions designed to provoke clear thinking and illuminate the already obvious irony as a rant. That's a very unique use of the word rant. I notice that your evaluation of my comment is high on negativity and emotional projections, but low on substantiation. Is there any part of my comment that you found particularly perplexing?" And then her friend Sarah chimes in, "Jeffrey, what I find perplexing, or perhaps just unclear, about your original comment is what point you are trying to make. Taking your question at face value, it is unclear why you are trying to identify which of the situations you list is worse. What benefit is there in such an exercise? In any event, my answer is that any of the acts you identified would, if based on a hatred of women, be unacceptable to me, and I wouldn't consider one worse than the other, independent of more context and information. However, I don't think the question was actually seeking a serious answer. I think you're using the question as a means of making some other point, but I don't know what that point is. Clearly, you believe someone is a worse misogynist than someone else, and that it is important to note that fact. But I'm lost as to the who or why behind that sentiment. Indeed, in your reply you say your questions are intended to illuminate the already obvious irony, but the irony you are referring to isn't obvious to me, so I'm still left confused as to what I'm supposed to take away from your original comment." To which I left a really long response, and I think that was justified because her friend was a little confused and bewildered, so here it is. As a matter of fact, Sarah, I was trying to expose several ironies, 3 or 4 of them, with my comment. I'm not moving anyone along any particular predetermined path. It's more like I'm rupturing a dike and allowing gravity to do its own thing and seek a natural equilibrium. In contrast, it takes a lot of sophistication, energy, and planning to work against the truth. Quote, "Clearly you believe someone is a worse misogynist than someone else, and it is important to note that fact." Unquote. That is not a fact, and it's not true. That is a false assumption which you have taken as an obvious truth. My focus is not on particular people, but on general ideas. I'm not trying to make the case that a particular person is a misogynist. My point was really a philosophical one. The first irony that I was trying to illuminate was the implicit pandering to the sexist human instinct to protect and provide for women exclusively. I'm referring to the patronizing act of treating women as fragile, stupid, harmless, and irresponsible children, a perspective which is incompatible with viewing women as mature and capable adults. This means advocacy that favors coddling women, encouraging hypersensitivity, and forming these victim cults. I find it ironic when the author promotes this very infantilization of women in an effort to empower women. Did I succeed in exposing that irony? And there's also a related irony here. Sarah Ratchford claims that women have the right to feel safe in public spaces. Do you really think that women specifically, or humans in general, should have a right to feel safe? How about comfortable? How about relaxed? This is a naive goal, because it's not possible to ever reach, and perhaps that's really the point of making it a goal. Sure, we all want to feel safe, or comfortable, or relaxed, over the short term, but there's a psychology behind feelings that needs to be considered before we attempt to extol feelings as political goals or legal principles. Feelings and emotions are temporary, transient, goal-oriented, and subjective states of being. Pursuing a feeling as a larger political goal is ultimately futile. This feelings-based advocacy is one that supports the hedonic treadmill to nowhere, because our minds adapt and recalibrate to our changing situation. We're never satisfied and our desires have no limits, given the truth of adaptation level theory, LINC, and its implications for the functional and dynamic nature of emotional states. Then it is obvious that giving someone a right to have a feeling, or the right not to have a feeling, is just as foolish as writing them a blank check. And let's not forget that we need to experience a wide range of emotions in order to be healthy, even though we naturally do prefer some emotions over others. The second irony that I was trying to illuminate is this idea that you can make a logical leap from finding evidence that someone has harmed or promoted hatred against a particular woman to the claim that they are a misogynist. Let's go back to where this all begins. Steph Guthrie claimed that Ben Spur is a misogynist because he obviously disliked Anita Sarkeesian, who is in fact a woman, and because he created a game where the object of the game is to beat up Anita Sarkeesian, who is in fact a woman. But Steph Guthrie never mentions or considers the relevant fact that this same Ben Spur had previously created a similar video game where the object of the game is to beat up Jack Thompson, a prominent male anti-video game activist who claims that violence in video games also promotes violence in real life. In other words, Ben Spur is not showing any bias that favors violence against women, but yet Steph Guthrie is showing a bias by ignoring the game that shows violence against a man and paying attention only to the game that shows violence against a woman, and then generalizing from that to misogyny through taking it out of context. She also doesn't mention the relevant fact that Ben Spur had already stated his reasons for disliking Anita Sarkeesian, and his reasons are that she's a liar, a fraud, and a phony feminist. There's no reason to think that it was because Anita Sarkeesian is a woman. Now back to the article. Sarah says that these three women are misogynists because she believes that they are biased against Steph Guthrie, and because Steph Guthrie is a woman. So she is making the same logical leap that Steph Guthrie did. The irony here is that anyone can play this game, and it doesn't lead anywhere. Just pointing out the fact that Sarah is singling out three prominent women for censure And in this case, the fact that they are women is explicitly part of her rationale for singling them out. This would be enough to claim that Sarah Ratchford is a misogynist by her own standards. I find that very ironic. And this leads me to a third irony that I noticed. You would think that the word misogyny is generally intended to discourage misogyny, which most of us agree is harmful, or at least ugly. But this cannot be effective when the word is debased and diluted through such reckless and ad hoc abuse of the term. Words should be used responsibly, and I don't think that the author has much respect for words. Quote, "Any hint that a man has committed sexualized crime against a woman, and these women colonists are victimizing him, apologizing for him, and uncovering any and all reasons why it may not have been his fault." Unquote. This sentence is the summary/conclusion of Sarah Ratchford's entire article. Note her use of the terms sexualized crime and victimizing in the context that she uses them. The word victimize and victimized, victimizer, victimizing, etc. means to harm someone or treat them in a wrong or cruel manner, and this is clearly not how Sarah Ratchford is using the term. It means to actually turn someone into a victim by harming them. It does not mean to merely view someone as a victim. As for sexualized crime, radical feminists often do use words like gendered crime, or gender-based crime, or gendered violence, which only has meaning within the sociological paradigm of patriarchy theory. They also use the word sexualization to mean a form of objectification/reification and or exploitation. There's a very heavy load of Marxist ideological baggage associated with these terms, but it is clear that a crime itself cannot be sexualized, and that one cannot commit a sexualized crime. I suppose that she thought that it sounds more sophisticated or feminist than sex crime or crime of a sexual nature, but she is just throwing the word sexualized in there to get feminist cred and to make her article sound more feminist. If she really did mean sexualized crime, then she would be saying that a certain subset of crimes have gained a new sexual purpose or a new sexual significance. But she's not saying that. Her meaning does come across, but she writes like someone who has mild Wernicke's aphasia, in the way that she is relying on fancy words without making an effort to understand or keep track of what they mean. Overall, the article was interesting, but I wouldn't call it good. Then her friend Sarah responded and thanked me for elaborating on and clarifying my points. And what was Cheryl's response? Well, she simply deleted her post and she unfriended me. Surprise, surprise. So that's how I lost a Facebook friend. By arguing against feminism. Seriously though, she just had nothing to say to that. Nothing. This is one thing I've noticed about feminists, is that they rely very heavily on social aggression, on, unfriending or things related to unfriending, like getting people excluded from events, fired from their job, excluded from social circles. Just generally, they use friendship as a weapon, as a tool to advance their ideological agenda and to promote their ideology. Which, it's a little better than using violence, but it's still a form of aggression. We all need to draw a little bit more attention to this aspect of how feminists fight, how they go to war, how they promote their ideology, how they go after their enemies. Exactly what we can do about that, I'm not too sure, but it's very important to note. They go after relationships. They go after friendships. That is their focus. And I'll be posting more videos. I don't know when. I'm hoping to be able to do this on a weekly basis, but it might end up being more like monthly basis. We'll see. I am very busy. See you later.